The morning sun had barely risen over the glass towers of Manhattan when Eleanor Hale, one of the most powerful CEOs in the country, stepped out of her sleek black car, ready to dive into another day of relentless meetings, decisions, and responsibilities that rarely left room for anything human or gentle. Yet even with her immaculate navy suit, polished heels, and air of quiet authority, something inside her felt empty. A hollow space she learned to ignore since losing her husband years earlier. For she had built her empire on discipline, silence, and the ability to bury every emotion deep enough that nothing could shake her. But the world has a strange way of slipping kindness into the cracks when we least expect it. And Eleanor's crack arrived in the form of a tiny voice, tugging timidly at the edges of her meticulously ordered morning. "Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am." The voice was so small she almost didn't hear it. But when she turned, she saw a little girl standing near the revolving doors, her oversized sweater slipping off one shoulder, her brown curls tangled and dusty, and her hazel eyes filled with something no child should ever care if wrapped tightly. With fragile hope, so Eleanor paused, unsure whether the child might be lost or selling something. But the girl swallowed hard, lifted her chin, and whispered words that froze Eleanor in her tracks. "I don't have mama. Can I spend a day with you, ma'am?" For a woman who had faced ruthless investors, billion-dollar contracts, and corporate crises that could topple empires, nothing had ever disarmed her the way that trembling sentence did. "Where is your mother?" she asked gently, crouching so she didn't loom over the child. And the girl twisted her fingers and murmured that her mother had gone to heaven last winter. Her aunt was sick too, and sometimes she sent her to ask for help, but today she didn't want money. She just wanted a mama for one day, just one, and before Eleanor's mind could catch up, her heart reacted first, cracking open in ways she hadn't felt in years. "What's your name?" she asked, her voice softer than she realized, and the girl whispered Leela, 6 years old. Then explained that she had approached Eleanor because you look like someone who could be kind, and you look lonely too. And the word struck with surprising force because nobody, absolutely nobody, had ever dared to see her like that. Not her board, not her staff, not the world that respected her power more than her personhood. Yet a child had noticed her loneliness instantly. Something in Eleanor shifted, and without fully understanding why, she reached out and held Lila's tiny hand, saying softly, "Come, spend the day with me." And just like that, a decision was made, quiet yet life-altering, drawing glances and whispers throughout the Hale Corporation lobby, as their feared CEO walked through holding the hand of a small, curious girl. Instead of sending Lila to HR or security, Eleanor brought her to her office, an office everyone treated like a sacred, intimidating chamber with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, where Lila pressed her palms against the glass and asked if Eleanor was ever scared, being so high above the world. And Eleanor, surprising even herself, answered truthfully. Sometimes, as meetings came and went, Lila sat in the corner drawing pictures on sticky notes, offering shy waves to every executive who entered. Shockingly, each one softened at the sight of her, even the notoriously stern CFO, who laughed a rare, nearly mythical sound when Lila handed him a drawing of a superhero who needs a nap. And Eleanor found herself laughing too, a warm, pure laugh she hadn't felt in years. At lunch she abandoned her usual isolated executive dining routine, and instead took Lila to a small park, where they shared sandwiches and where Eleanor gently asked if Lila missed her mother. Lila nodded, describing how her mama sang to her each night, and told stories of brave girls who became queens not because of crowns, but because they were kind. And Eleanor felt a painful lump rise in her throat because kindness was something she had forgotten long ago, buried beneath success and grief. Yet here was a little girl reminding her what mattered. In the afternoon, the board members confronted Eleanor, insisting on an urgent private meeting, glancing judgmentally at Lila. And Eleanor felt the old version of herself, the corporate soldier, try to rise. But then Lila tugged at her sleeve and whispered, "Can I stay with you, please?" And Eleanor made a choice she had not made in a decade. She put a human being above her company. "If it can wait, it will wait," she told the board firmly, stunning them into silence as she walked away holding Lila's hand, feeling perhaps for the first time in years like she was choosing something right, something real. As evening approached, Lila fell asleep curled up on the office lounger, and Eleanor watched her small chest rise and fall, watched the innocence and exhaustion mingled on her face, and unexpectedly tears began to fill Eleanor's own eyes. She tried to blink them away, but they fell anyway quietly at first. Then in waves, years of suppressed loneliness, grief, and emotional numbness dissolving because a child had been brave enough to ask her for love. When Lila awoke at dusk, she said she should go home before her aunt worried, and Eleanor felt an unfamiliar ache in her chest at the thought of the day ending. She drove Lila to a small, worn apartment building, and before going inside, the girl hugged her tightly, so tightly Eleanor felt something inside her both break and heal at once as Lila whispered, "Thank you for being my mama today," leaving Eleanor breathless. Kneeling, Eleanor gently cupped her face and asked if she could see her again, and Lila nodded eagerly before disappearing inside, leaving Eleanor standing there with a newfound sense of purpose. The next day, Eleanor returned not as a CEO doing charity, but as someone who deeply cared, and over the weeks that followed, she helped Lila's aunt get medical assistance, ensured they had stable support, enrolled Lila in school, and became the steady presence the little girl desperately needed. Though what surprised Eleanor most was how much she herself needed Lila, not to fill a void, but to remind her that connection, kindness, and humanity were not weaknesses, but strengths she had long abandoned. Months passed and the bond grew into something neither had planned, but both cherished, built not on blood, but on choice, compassion, and the simple courage of a lonely little girl who dared to ask a stranger for love. Though Eleanor never demanded the name Mama, Lila gave it to her anyway, freely, lovingly, naturally, and each time she said it, Eleanor felt her heart expand in ways she once believed impossible. And from then on, through every board meeting, crisis, and challenge, Eleanor carried Lila's gentle reminder with her that adults often forget what truly matters. And sometimes it takes the bravery of a child to remind them that the power of humanity, kindness, and selfless love can heal even the most guarded hearts.